In 2008, the Kids WB aired The Spectacular Spiderman, which was the 7th iteration of Spider-Man in animated form. Following after the iconic 1967 show, the 1982 series, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the fan-favourite 90s Spider-Man, its spin-off show, Spider-Man Unlimited, and MTV's Spider-Man, the new animated series, which starred Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, MPH was Spider-Man.
This series was produced by Sony Pictures Television in association with Culver Entertainment and developed for television by Greg Weisman and Victor Cook. In terms of overall tone and style, the series is based principally on the original stories by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, with a similar balance of action, drama and comedy, utilising a high school setting. However, it also tends to use material from all eras of the comics run and other media sources such as Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy and the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. Victor Cook is a veteran in American television, working as a director, writer and producer. Cook's past animated projects include Atlantis, Milo's Return, The Legend of Tarzan, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, Darkwing Duck, Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated, and Hellboy, Blood and Iron. He was also a director and supervising producer on Ben 10, Destroy All Aliens, a CGI made-for-TV movie. Greg Weisman is a name you'll come to hear a lot on this channel. His work includes Witch, and producing on the first season of Star Wars Rebels. But really I should have just opened with him being the co-creator of Gargoyles and Young Justice. In short, he's a big deal. The series introduces us to Peter Parker, after several months of fighting crime as Spider-Man. Peter is preparing to start a new year of school and though initially very confident, soon finds it increasingly difficult to manage his web slinging with his personal life, especially when it comes to getting a girlfriend or even actually starting a conversation with a girl. On top of this, Spider-Man's arrival has not gone unnoticed by those behind the scenes of New York's criminal element, leading them to increase their efforts at stopping him by any means necessary. Main theme and intro.
That song is awesome.
It's catchy and memorable, with some great visuals, introducing the audience to the cast and preparing you nicely for the tone of the show. The song, which was written and performed by the band Tenderbox, is a nice successor to the iconic 60s era tune we all know and love. Story and characters. Originally, Victor Cook was called by Sony Entertainment alongside Greg Weisman to help develop a DVD project about Spider-Man. Both of them wanted to use a style from the early comic book publications of the character that showed him younger, which Cook had never seen done before in any adaptation. The idea was reformatted to an animated television series, but they still kept a similar chronicle style, where, as Cook described, each episode stands alone as its own story. But like the comic book itself, it's a saga. The original title for the series was The Amazing Spider-Man, based on the comic series of the same name, but by mid-2007 the name was changed to The Spectacular Spiderman, which was also a long-running Spider-Man comic title. Spider-Man's true success as a comic has always been the relationships between Peter and his supporting characters, working best when finding a balance between its action and its drama between its characters. Spectacular Spider-Man has a very large supporting cast, which incorporates characters from all eras of his history, as well as his various incarnations in film and television. In this version, Peter is a student at Midtown High School, something the other animated shows hadn't done before. Characters like Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn in this version are childhood friends and attend school with him. Gwen, in this iteration, shares Peter's passion and talent for science, and is far more reserved. Harry, however, is very similar to his comic counterpart, in that he is desperate for approval from his father, as well as those he deems his peers. Other changes include certain characters' ethnicity, an example being Liz Allen. The series introduces additional characters over several episodes that quickly begin to develop their own story arcs. As to be expected, J. Jonah Jameson and the staff of the Daily Bugle grow in importance. Kurt Connors and his family have an expanded role in the series, providing a workplace for Peter and Gwen. But what's of particular note is the focus and development of Spider-Man's rogue gallery. Second only to Batman's in quality and variety, here the writers put a lot of thought and original ideas into the established canon, in particular Otto Octavius and Eddie Brock, who are both excellently developed over the series. Another nice touch is the focus on Alexander O'Hearn and Flint Marko, who comic fans will know eventually become the Rhino and Sandman. In the show, they start off as petty crooks, who are almost routinely apprehended by Spider-Man. Other standouts include Flash Thompson, whose seemingly one-dimensional school jock perhaps has more depth than he would have liked you to believe. And without question, this is the best screen adaptation of Mary Jane, who is far better utilised here than in any previous shows and films. The show treats her as far more than a potential love interest for Peter, bringing a great personality to an already solid collection of characters. This focus on investing the audience's interest in the supporting cast is a real strength of the show, but the real success is how it portrays Peter Parker.
Well, he is the star.
Balancing his commitment to upholding right and wrong due to his guilt in his involvement in the death of his uncle, whilst at the same time desperate to try and lead a normal teenage life. His intelligence and good nature are completely undermined by his inability to correctly prioritise or properly think through the consequences of his actions. The show gets Peter's flaws. Fundamentally though, Peter is a good person, and the show does a great job of showing his likability and endearing nature, giving us a character we genuinely root for, but more often roll our eyes at when it comes to some of his decision making. Design and style. Both Weisman and Cook wanted to use the style of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, as they felt it had set the bar for the fluid movement of Spider-Man. As they were on a specific budget, they wanted to allow the animation to move more than anything. Giving it simple and stylistic designs, Cook also looked back on his work on Hellboy, Blood and Iron, which had a fresh young look to it that appealed to him visually. Cook wanted to make an iconic Spider-Man for both new and older generations that moved like we've never really seen him move in animation before. The animation was done by Adelaide Productions, who are an animation division of Sony Pictures Television. Adelaide has produced a great number of animated television series over the years, including Jumanji, Extreme Ghostbusters, Godzilla the Animated Series, Roughnecks Starship Troopers Chronicles, Jackie Chan Adventures, MTV's Spider-Man the Animated Series, and Adult Swim's The Boondocks. Action. The inventiveness of the action is something that really stands out in Spectacular Spiderman. The villains he encounters all have interesting powers, and the writers always attempt to maximise the use of locations that the action occurs in. There is also a sort of symmetry to certain episodes, with some action paralleling events happening in Peter's personal life. The attention to detail really shows the commitment and clear vision that the creative team had. Soundtrack. The music was composed by the team of Michael McCuston, Lolita Ritmanis, and Christopher Carter, who are the founders of Dynamic Music Partners. The three have been composing music for film and television for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, these guys are also a big deal.
Between them, they have accumulated multiple Emmy Awards, as well as other nominations, and their feature film work includes Lethal Weapon 4 and the awesome Demolition Man, as well as the soundtracks to Batman Beyond, Batman the Animated Series, Superman, Justice League Unlimited, Young Justice, and the excellent Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Of special note is their work on Batman the Brave and the Bold, in particular the episode Mayhem of the Music Meister, a musical episode which featured all original songs written by the trio. as well as the singing talents of one-time Spider-Man Neil Patrick Harris as the main villain.
It's better than Hamilton.
Voice cast. An incredible collection of talent was brought in to really bring to life a large cast of characters and very distinct personalities.
Okay, this list is about to get very long.
Starting with Josh Keaton, who is to Spider-Man what Kevin Conroy is to Batman. He utterly nails Parker's personality, keeping the balance of angst from his desire to date and succeed at school with the ever-growing pressures of being Spider-Man. Film and television legend Ed Asner is perfect as Ben Parker. He also played J. Jonah Jameson in the 90s era Spider-Man, but will be most famous for his role in Pixar's Up. Jonah Jameson is this time voiced by Darren Norris. His work covers 2 decades of prominent shows and movies. Series of note include The Fairly OddParents, in which he voiced Cosmo, Jorgen and Timmy's dad, the fan favourite character Knockout in Transformers Prime, with other appearances in shows which include American Dad and the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. However, his most prominent voice work will always be as Spotsworth in Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Team America World Police. A nice bit of casting sees Jane Lynch as Mrs. Jameson. Norman Osborn is voiced by veteran actor Alan Ratchins, and star of Battlestar Galactica Tricia Helfer injects a surprising amount of sexuality into Black Cat. Industry legend Stephen Blum plays the Green Goblin. He also voices several other characters in the show. Fans of Adult Swim and Cartoon Network will recognise Blum as the host of Toonami, as well as voicing various English-dubbed anime shows. He gave a very memorable performance as Starscream in Transformers Prime, and to many is the definitive Wolverine, voicing him in several animated incarnations. Of course, voice actor supreme himself, Kevin Michael Richardson, is in this. But he is also joined by an incredible cast of industry veterans, including Crispin Freeman, who has done voice work on Hellsing, Naruto, and Young Justice, the voice of Futurama's Bender and Adventure Time's Jake the Dog, John DiMaggio, Johnny Bravo himself, Jeff Bennett, the insanely talented D. Bradley Baker, and Phil LaMarr, who is better known as the voice of Samurai Jack. There are also some iconic actors from cinema, including the late great Miguel Ferrer, Danny Trejo, Peter McNichol as Dr. Octopus, who was without a doubt the best part of Ghostbusters 2, as well as Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund as the Vulture. The Clancy Brown effect. Whenever I watch any cartoon, the first thing I check is, does it feature Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown is one of the all-time greats of cinema and television. Most famous for his roles are as the Kurgan in Highlander and Lex Luthor in the Bruce Timm DC era. Still to this day, the best Lex Luthor. The man has done a lot of voice work over the years, to the point where his presence has almost been a constant in shows I watched growing up. As a result, any show not featuring him will never in my eyes be truly great.
Not 1, but 2 roles in the show.
Brilliantly cast as Captain Stacy and classic Spider-Man villain, the Rhino.
Spectacular Spiderman, doing it right.
How meta is it? As mentioned earlier, the series takes a lot from Spider-Man's long history in comics and other media. There are noticeable elements from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. The DNA featured in the opening theme is a nod to the DNA strands used in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Themes and stories that the show incorporates from the comics include Harry's drug addiction, which was altered to better suit a children's show, and the arrival of the symbiote, which in Spectacular Spider-Man comes from space through contact with John Jameson's shuttle. This plot element was originally done in the 90s era Spider-Man. However, Peter's relationship with Eddie Brock is adapted from Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man run. The famous introduction of Mary Jane in the comics is very faithful, including the slow build-up to her arrival that the comics did over several issues. Josh Keaton would later also voice a Spider-Man-like character in Greg Weisman's Young Justice. It's a nice touch. A surprising part of the show is the adult humour. I'll use this scene as an example.
Whoa!
Oh, you better not get your goop in my hair.
Don't worry, it comes off with ice or peanut butter.
Lovely.
The show was very well received in ratings, and even by mainstream critics, but sadly, this wasn't to last. The bad times. After the Disney acquisition of Marvel, all Marvel productions not being made by Disney were cancelled. This included Spectacular Spiderman and Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This made sense from a business and creative perspective, as it gave Disney full control of their newly acquired brand. One of the issues the writing team had on Spectacular Spider-Man were that they could only feature characters originating from the Spider-Man comics, and not characters from the rest of the Marvel Universe. Without these limitations, Disney commissioned its own Spider-Man cartoon. Titled Ultimate Spider-Man, it was to be loosely based on the acclaimed comic run of the same name.
It would also turn out to be utter garbage.
But Ultimate Spider-Man and the even worse 2017 Spider-Man are a whole other episode. Though it didn't finish on a cliffhanger, only 26 out of the planned 65 episodes were completed, and it was very plain to see that Spectacular Spider-Man still had a lot of stories and characters it wanted to tackle. There are no shortage of Spider-Man films. Spider-Man is one of the most recognisable brand names in the world, and as we all know, cartoons really exist to sell toys and merchandise, and no one is better at this than Disney. It's just a shame that the stories and toys they replaced Spectacular Spider-Man with were so subpar. 5 Megaminds, without a doubt one of the best examples of comic adaptation in television. It's also just a great show all around. There'll always be more animated Spider-Man shows, but I very much doubt that they will ever match the quality and talent involved with this one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, then please feel free to like and subscribe. And until next time.